Whoops, I think I should be audible now. Give me a minute. I'll just turn off some background noise. Okay, so I should be audible now. Please let me know if you can hear me. Um, you guys are joining at 8 p.m. In the middle of the week. I will try to make this useful for you. But in the interim, just please let me know before I start so that am I clearly audible? Are there any issues that I should be aware of? And then we'll jump right in. Just logging into this. I see there are 3 likes. Thanks for that. Please feel free to drop more towards the end of the session if you like what you get to learn from this particular uh, workshop. This is a kickoff session. We will be covering some of the basics here. My goal here will be to give you enough context so you can understand what's happening around the domain, what is that you will be learning through your boot camp with Pathway. That's some of my that's one of the core endeavors that I have. Yep. Let me just quickly see if I am audible or not. Can post a comment if I'm audible to you and you're watching me live. You can post a comment. I'll wait for a couple of minutes and then I'll just. I think there's sometimes a lag, so I'll just wait for a minute. Once I see some comments here, I'll start. Okay, thanks. I think I'm audible right now. So, first of all, those who have joined live, thank you so much for joining in. My name is Mudit and I'm from Pathway. My goal in this session will be to walk you through some of the core elements about RAG, about the boot camp, and I'll walk you through the website also a bit briefly so that you can go and start learning on your own should you wish to do the same. Okay. Before I just jump into it, I would love to understand if you have already worked on any agentic or RAG projects, or you can also share which year you're from in case that's something that you're openly talking about, or you can share if you've built any projects. That way I can understand how much I need to cover. I've tried to make it pretty beginner level in nature, but then would love to understand if there's something specific that I should know. My assumption is that you are a student who understands the fundamentals of programming, are somewhat adept with Python know-how, which is not a very big deal in today's world. But then, and it's not a necessity though, by the way, for this session. It's just more for me to know that that's the background that I'm interacting with. Like I'm interacting with people who are dealing with engineering problem statements. And my assumption is that you're from IIT Kanpur. In case you're not from IIT Kanpur, welcome to this forum. I would love to know where you're from, and then we'll get started. Okay, I see no comments. I'll just wait for 30 seconds more. If I see any comments, then that will be good, or else I'll just start anyway. I mean, you don't necessarily have to go about disclosing any personally identifiable information. But yeah, if you can share about you, that will be good. I'd love to know who you are. We often interact with a lot of people who come from the community. That is why I also know a couple of people who have done these boot camps in the past, have now gone ahead to raise uh, funds for the startups. They're doing really well. Um, they didn't necessarily monetize the project that they built in the bootcamp, but then the reason I got to know them is through the bootcamp. So that's a brief about you know our journey here. But then yes, okay, cool. Okay, I'll start anyway. Okay, I just got a nudge that we can start, so I'll do that. Cool. So let me just share my screen and then we can start off from there. Let me know if you can see it, by the way. Okay, awesome. I'm doing. Oh, interesting. We have people who are doing masters as well in computer science. I believe it's MTech, but then yes, I'll just go about sharing my entire screen, and we'll dive right into it. If you are watching this in an async mode, I think best is that you stay along, because then if you have any doubts, I can answer them. In case you're watching it later, then you can skip the beginning session where we were just waiting for people to join in. Cool. So this is the GenAI Bootcamp 2025 at IIT Kanpur in collaboration with our friends from Science and Technology Council. A very wonderful bunch of engineers who will be there in your journey to take you to a point where you can build some impactful projects by the end of this bootcamp. Pathway is building live AI systems. Live AI is about AI systems that can think and learn in real time. Some of the components that you can already see on pathway.com, you'll have to scroll a little bit to the section where you will see photos of three of our co-founders. Like there are more, but then these three are some luminaries which are some luminaries which are there on the website. You will see a section which says we have got some 60K GitHub stars. Click here to check out our tooling. So you need to click there. That's when you'll be taken the core framework of Pathway, which is already out there. You can also join the wait list, which is there on pathway.com. That way you will get to know about the latest releases that may come from our end. When I say latest releases, I'm not talking about latest version of Pathway release. I think that is released every week or two. I'm talking about a major paper publication or something that may come out. Okay. Pathway is an AI research company based out of Palo Alto. That's their headquarters. I'm joining from Surat in India. I've recently come back to India. And then uh, we have offices in Paris and a couple of them in Poland. So that's a brief about. And in terms of teams, we have mostly folks who have been researchers at the Googles and the Facebooks of the world. Multiple competitive programming medalists, top 10 coders in some of the most competitive challenges like Top Coder, Open, Google Code Jam, and all. People who have co-founded the first social media of their country, people who have co-founded the first competitive programming platform in the world. So a good bunch of people, and the boot camp that you're going to take is actually supported by these folks who are my colleagues. We also have someone like Lukash Kaiser, who is now a leader at OpenAI, co-creator of the Teen ChatGPT. So yeah, anyway, skipping that element, that's me. I was looking for a recent photo of mine, and I ended up picking this one. I'm obviously the one on the left. The one on the right is someone that inspires me a lot. He's Andrew Eng, the co-founder of Deep Learning AI, Landing AI, and a few other iconic companies like Coursera. So that's a brief about me. I work as a director of growth at Pathway. Okay, cool. So AI is the talk of the town, right? Like right now, it's no surprise that you would see some really big companies pouring in a lot of money and energy into building what we call as the AGI and advancing um, the possibilities of what can be done with the help of AI and LLMs. Pathway is also pretty much in the scene. Um, that's why if you go on the website on the homepage, you are rather taken to a waitlist page and not to the core framework page, because there are some important releases coming out, and it would be great for you to keep a track of them. But even the core framework that exists today is something which is very foundational in nature. It is used for people um, who want to build systems that can um, learn continuously as there are more information as there is more information coming in via event stream data. Just like in a simple manner, I can say people, developers, your colleagues, your seniors would use Pathway for building projects that can adapt in real time with the help of real time changes, okay, that may occur in the real world. Okay, so talking about Gen AI, it is pretty much taking the center stage. It's at some point, like AI used to be a vertical within companies, right? The thing with Gen AI is that it is no more a vertical within companies. It is like a core component of every single enterprise out there. Okay, in fact, in many companies today, I see they have like some very popular, some of them are very popular recruiters in India as well. They would have these proper AI frameworks, AI, what do you call it? Uh, Internal platforms where you can go and build your own Gen AI projects and then present it to the leadership. Because companies are now very much moving from the phase where they would like if you look at the last decade, um, I had a lot of friends who would be leaders at data science leaders at some really cool companies, and in the span of 5 7 years, all they would have done is publish papers and present it to the leadership, and nothing would ever make it to the production. That used to be a very common scene. That's no more the case right now. It's expected that the GenAI projects that you're building, they are built for production, they are production ready, and they are creating some impact at the end of the day. That they are helping with decreasing costs, increasing revenues, anything. When you say decreasing costs, it can be in terms of uh, you know decreasing the number of the cost spent per serving a particular customer query, for instance. Okay. So GenAI is like a very much a center stage element today. And what it is? So in a classical, like if I have to talk about the definition of it, it's about generating stuff, right? So instead of simply classifying or analyzing things or predicting numbers, you're talking about generating something new that can be text, images, audio, synthetic data, and more. Okay, and it can be adapted very quickly for a lot of downstream tasks without task specific training, which means that if you have a model, a GenAI model, you can use it for a wide range of tasks, which are dependent with the output, depend on the output that may come out of a GenAI model. Okay, and the reason I've just added this element is because it's important for you to know that the GenAI thing exploded after Transformers, a very seminal paper that came into the field, but it has been there for a while. The GANs for the GAN architecture and everything. For example, deepfakes. It has been there since the past 2 3 U.S. elections. If you look at it, okay, it's not something which has come now. Obviously, with more powerful models coming in today, it has become a lot more easier. But these things have existed for a long period already. And Transformers is something that changed the game. There was this paper that came out called as "Attention is All You Need." We had people like this guy Lukash Kaiser is the one who has contributed resources towards this one session that he has taken. He took it offline at one of the Pathway events, and that's a part of the boot camp as well. So this paper actually really changed the game, because what happened after this is, with the help of Transformer, you were now able to train models. You were able to add a lot more layers and then train models at a lot of data, like practically the entire internet's data. Okay, and that kind of unlocked the LLM advantage. So now you were dealing with unprecedented scale of data. An interesting thing, by the way, something that Lukash mentions in his session, is that when they were initially building it at Google Brain, the thing that used to come internally is like, we already have Google Translate. How would this be any better? Something to that tune. I mean, I'm not quoting him word to word, but the essence was something similar. So when it was being built, nobody probably knew that this will be this much pivotal. The entire world would shift so quickly after that. But then when it came, we were now able to train models on an enormous amount of data. In fact, to the point that today, if you look at it, you're talking about a world where the data is so scarce on the internet, that how do you improve the models further? You can't just add more and more data because data is getting scarce. So how do you make it better? But still, the point is, it's trained on a huge amount of data. This is proprietary data as well, plus data on the internet, like Reddit, YouTube, everything. These models, these LLMs, by the way, since I'm already using the word LLM, in case you don't know what it is, the GPT in Chat GPT is LLM, which is a large language model. Okay, we call it large because obviously this element, scale of data, the amount of layers it has, and language because these models, they initially were completely text based, so they were language models. In fact, even today, a core component of it is text based. But now, if you know, there are a lot of models like Claude, Opus 4, and all this. There's, I think, Sonnet latest 5 also that has come in. These models are a bit more used for code generation kind of things as well, where you would enter it in a language, a natural language, and then it will give you an output, a code output. Okay, so that is where it is used not just in the form of text but code. Then you also have images, videos, and a lot more. We call this multimodal, where you are not interacting with just one modality, which is text. You have more modalities like videos, audio, text, so and so, code, so on and so forth. So the LLM, they are trained on a huge amount of data. They have this ability of transfer learning and in context learning. Transfer learning, if you don't know, in a very crude example, you can assume it to be something like, hey, if I know how to play cricket, then I can quickly learn how to play baseball. Just a crude analogy, but then you get the point. That's the essence of transfer learning, that these models, they don't have to be trained from scratch for every new use cases. They can become better if you just provide the right context. Okay, this is where the term in context learning comes into picture. These models, they can continuously improve via RLHF. RLHF is reinforcement learning via human feedback. So there's actually humans at the back end trying to make these models better. And then these models have multitasking abilities, and they're easy at quick prototyping and all. You can simply pick an API off the shelf, like you can pick the ChatGPT, GPT API, or Llama model from Meta, or any other model, and then it'll be used for a wide variety of use cases. And yeah, but then there are challenges as well. I'm skipping this with intention. Don't worry about it. We'll come to it. Um, but LLMs come with their own challenges. Like if I ask you, like, hey, can you build a better application than ChatGPT? Many of you would be like, hey, we can't do it. But it's all about customizing for a particular use case and serving one particular problem better than someone who's, you know, uh, good at everything. Like for example, ChatGPT is good at everything. You can be an expert at some particular domain. Okay, so but let's understand where LLMs actually fall short, because that is the core for you to understand unlocking more value by the end of this boot camp, and by the end of you by during your GenAI journey as well. So LLMs, they are good, but then they hallucinate. Okay. In fact, hallucinate also became the word of the year in 2023 in the Cambridge dictionary. And if you look at it, it is not because of the traditional definition of hallucinate. It was because of the AI definition of hallucinate. That these models, they can generate some very good looking BS. It would look very real, but then it will not be correct, and that's a big problem because it looks real. So they hallucinate. Source is unsure. For example, if a model is giving an output that the source is unsure about it, reasoning is unclear. We are now discussing about traceability and all those kind of things in agents, but then in a model in itself, you can't really decipher that, okay, this is how it came to the output. Okay, and that really causes a lot of trust issues. People cannot just go about deploying an LLM for critical use cases. And LLMs, they cannot learn with time. The current state of LLMs, they cannot learn with time, and that's a major problem. If something happens yesterday, then they would not know about it. You cannot also like kind of take an LLM, deploy it in your internal setting, and imagine like, hey, like for example, if I am hiring a human, an intern, then the intern will learn continuously, right? With time, they will get really better. They'll become a really strong asset. That's not the case with LLMs. You can kind of add external components to it, but then it's not the model learning at the crux of it, and that is a major blocker. And then they don't have access to private data sources. Like for example, let's say your university has a particular folder, right, that is not published on the internet, or let's say it was published on the internet, but then that was not so easy to scrape, so it got scraped or whatever. The point is that there are a lot of sources, like for example, Pathway's internal Google Drive, okay, or Microsoft SharePoint, or whatever tool that we use. That thing is that the information, the folders inside it are not public. Okay. In fact, for those of you who are from IIT Kanpur would know of this company called as Glean. They used to hire a lot of talent, as well, they were entirely built on this foundation that they will simply solve this particular pain point actually. So this is a major pain point for people who are building with LLMs. And let's take an enterprise use case where kind of um, this becomes more prevalent. For example, let's say you are hired by Netflix and I am the CEO of Netflix, for example. Okay, and I tell you, hey, build an internal LLM app for Netflix employees to find latest information from data. For example, usage stats or real-time revenue numbers. Let's say I as a CEO should be able to ask, hey, how many people in Kanpur are sharing passwords? And it should tell probably 70-80% of people are sharing passwords. Random example. Or I can go about an employee can go about asking, hey, tell me if I can take a leave on this day or not. And then it can check the internal company leave policies, and then it can tell if it can take leave or not. So that's a enterprise use case, right? The other use case is something on the top of it, like let's say you're hired by Amazon, by AWS, and you want to build a chatbot that can answer doubts about latest releases in the AWS marketplace or its ecosystem. Let's say you want to ask if a particular issue was resolved or not, and that is being captured in some form of tickets or a discussion forum on a community page. So those things, they are not by nature inherently a part of the training data set of an LLM. So if you want to solve for it today, how do you do that? Let's look at a few options. First one is you can build a foundational model yourself. Okay, start from scratch, build a model. Second option is you can fine tune the model. Or the third one is you can play on LLM strengths, which is excellent contextual understanding by something called as in context learning. For example, if you just go back, here we saw the in context learning bit, right? Which is basically the ability of LLMs to learn something very nicely, to understand something nicely. Not learn is not the best word, but then to understand something if you give it just the right context. Okay, so let's explore various options that I have listed here. Okay, before that, I'll just quickly go and check if there are any comments or any doubts. Streaming live. Yep. Okay. I imagine there are no issues by the way so far, so I'll just continue. So how to solve this? The first option is that you can, fine tune the model. Now, what's fine tuning? It's a very common de facto way. Like you would typically take a data, you will prepare that data, you label it, and then you will use that to improve your model for a particular use case. You will basically adjust the weights so that it is better performing for a particular set of use cases. Okay. Now the challenges are, first, data preparation is very costly, expensive, and all. Okay, you cannot just as a proxy. For example, uh, OpenAI provides an embeddings API, which is core to what we are going to learn in the bootcamp, and an API for fine tuning. The last time I checked, which was around a year ago, by the way, the pricing difference for them was 80 times. That's 80. That's a huge difference right up front. And I'm not factoring in the people cost. Like preparing data would obviously taken a lot of time and skills and everything, right? Second is cost efficiency. It's much more expensive. You will have to incur the compute cost and data freshness. Let's say if you're looking at the example of number of people sharing passwords, now the number for that will change every day, right? So you cannot fine tune every day. So this option is not possible. Okay, let's look at another option, which is building an LLM from scratch. As obvious as it gets, it's something that I should quickly cover. It's not so doable for you. Why? It requires, first of all, some extremely good talent. Okay, kind of talent that Meta is paying hundreds of millions of dollars for. You somehow magically kind of acquire that talent. After that, you will have to assemble massive high quality data. This also involves spending millions of dollars, by the way. Companies have done that. And then you'll have to somehow train these models at scale. That's further cost on GPU hardware, assuming that you're able to acquire the GPU. And then the last one would be evaluation, iteration, and everything. So obviously, you can imagine this is going to cost hundreds of millions of dollars. There are smarter ways of approaching it, but then again, it is not going to be cheap in any way. In fact, initially people said that DeepSeek R1 was built in $5 million, but then eventually people understood that it was not for $5 million. Okay, so yeah, there are some challenges to it. So how do you solve it? Smart approaches leverage the power of in context learning. Okay, you can actually combine these two techniques, by the way, fine tuning plus in context learning. But then let's just understand the third spectrum right now. So there are two ways of in context learning. First one is you do prompt engineering, you work with prompts. I'm sure you would have heard about the term prompt engineering. It's about like, writing the right prompt so that you get the right output. But it has limitations. For example, it's a manual work. Every single time you have to write the prompt, the person needs to know how to write the right prompt. Okay, the window is usually limited. Like, you cannot copy paste an entire book and expect a good answer. Most of the models, first of all, they will not allow you to copy paste an entire book. Even if you're able to do that, they will end up skipping the components in between. Okay, and then you cannot save data for future use. For example, let's assume in a company people are asking about leave policies, right? For example, now that kind of query will be asked. If you look at companies which have hundreds of thousands of employees, a similar nature of query will be asked by a lot of people, and just to answer just the same query, you're going to spend that compute again and again and again, which is not smart. Okay. There are applications, like there are limited applications. It can still hallucinate. For example, when I used to ask something like, what is the full form of LLM, something like that, around 1.5 years ago, it used to answer large linguistic model. Now it looks correct, but again, it's not correct, right? So those kind of things. It does not have. In fact, right now, a very common thing that occurs even today is that sometimes it will create certain. You ask a particular query, it will give an output. It will create certain links. And for example, let's assume there's a link on IBM News, so it will be like IBM.com hyphen news hyphen some some text after that, right? In the URL, that URL can be fake. It can even end up hallucinating on that front. Just crazy, right? If unless you go and click on it and you see a 404 error, you will never recognize that it had hallucinated. So that's a problem. It will still not have access to real time information, and there will be privacy issues. You cannot go about copy pasting in a crucial thing on ChatGPT about a particular company. It's like exposing things. So that option is not there. The second option is RAG, which is where this bootcamp is centered towards. The domain of agents is also just an extended version of this. Okay. So what is RAG? A simple way to understand this, it's like a cue card. Let's say if I'm giving a talk, I'm right now sharing my entire screen, so I don't have a cue card. But let's say if I had to take a session, right, I can also have some speaker notes or some cue cards that politicians typically use, right? Now, or in an open book examination, if you have to give an answer, you will not go about, kind of, in open book examination, you cannot learn the entire theory in itself, right? At the 11th hour, you know a lot of things beforehand, which is a lot like LLMs, by the way. You don't have access to, and this, then sorry, and then in some form of fashion, during the examination, if you're able to open the right page, if you're able to retrieve the right page which has the answer, then you can just look there, and then you can consume what is there in the book and give the output. So what you're doing is you're retrieving the things that are there in the book at the 11th hour. You're inputting that into your brain, augmenting what you already knew, and then generating the answer on your answer sheet. Similarly, this approach can also be replicated for LLMs, and we call this retrieval augmented generation, RAG. Okay. um, like, it's about retrieving the right information from your data sources, or putting them into the context window, so that now you have the best possible context, and then you generate the answers. And with that approach, you can now end up getting answers on things which were even not a part of the training data. So we simply call it RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation. This was pioneered in a paper by Meta around 2020, if I'm correct. Now it has advanced a lot. Now people also combine it with certain things like tooling and function calling. For example, let's say I want to ask a question which requires me to use a mathematics model instead. I know that LLMs are not so great at mathematics calculation inherently. So what I'll do is I'll simply place another LLM which will classify if a particular query requires a math model or not. If it requires a math model, it will call that math model, put that query to the mathematics model, get the output from it, and then use that in output as an input to my LLM, the next LLM in the chain, and then it will give an output. Okay, not sure if you're able to comprehend it completely, but what I'm trying to say is you can go to more complex workflows also, and then you can go about giving more authority or agency to these models or these systems. Hence the word agents also, by the way. So an extension of RAG ends up becoming agents. In this particular bootcamp that we will cover in our duration, we will try to understand the building blocks. You'll get to know what LLMs are. You'll understand a brief about transformers architecture. If you have the time, you can also spend a bit more energy into understanding elements around it. They're there in the bootcamp itself. We have listed them as bonus resources so that in case you are pretty much a beginner, you don't have to get overwhelmed, and still you can complete it. You can skip the bonus thing resources for the end. And then once you've understood how LLMs work, you'll jump into RAG. A core building block of RAG is vector embeddings and word vectors. You'll understand how we reach that particular point, what this thing is exactly, how do they work underneath. And then when I'm talking about retrieving the right things, how does this retrieval really work? What is vector search? How does vector retrieval work? And where does it fall short? Is it the state of the art method to go about things, or there are smarter approaches? Quick answer is that it is not the smartest approach. There are smarter approaches out there, so you'll get to know about them. And then towards the end of it, you'll go about building these projects yourself. You'll also learn, by the way, what is the core component of a production RAG application. The requirements for a lot of tooling that are out there are not built for production. Even if they may look very jazzy, the problem with them is that they are not ready for production use cases. So you'll get to learn that particular component as well, and then you will hopefully build something which is impactful by the end of the bootcamp. So that's pretty much my presentation. That was my kickoff session. Now you know what you're going to learn in the bootcamp. If you have any questions, you can ask. I'll be happy to answer them. Some of the questions that we got beforehand, I can answer them, by the way. In the interim, if you have questions, you can also tell from your end. So first, will it be recorded or live? It will be a mix. Most of the learning resources will be recorded. Some of the elements will be live. Uh, then the next question that I have is, do I need to know about sequence to sequence models and backpropagation, etc.? No, not necessarily. It's good to know, obviously, because then you will be able to cover the bonus resources also, but then it's not mandatory. That's it. These are the two questions that I had before. And yeah, if I'm not an IIT Kanpur student, can I join? Yes, you can join. It's online, but I think if there are some on-site sessions, I don't know. I think my colleague Saksham, who's um, also going to be an instructor for some of the important modules, I think he can answer it, or your friends at the Science and Technology Council, they can answer it. But then I think that's what is there from my end right now. I'll wait for 1 minute. If you have any questions, you can ask them, or if you're good, then you can simply like the video. That's your way to support your Science and Technology Council at IIT Kanpur. Then subscribe to them. I think it does create value because they do organize a lot of these events in the future as well. You will do that, and when you subscribe to them, it naturally makes it easier for them to spread the word, and you will not miss out on them. So that's a good thing. Um, yeah. Any questions or doubts that I can answer? Cool. I don't see any questions. So thanks a lot, folks, for joining in. I hope you found it useful and are excited for the bootcamp journey ahead. Please do share it with your friends. In the sense, it's usually better if you have your friends also who are doing the journey with you. You guys can hold each other accountable, and that way you can progress. Thank you so much, folks. Have a great evening ahead. Thank you for joining on a Thursday evening. Appreciate it. All the best. Bye.